Exactly. Yes, because we hypnotize ourselves by investing all our energy in one belief. Well, this is how it's supposed to be. This is how it has to be. And now things are not like this. It's a disaster. This is how it's supposed to be. I have believed this for 30 years. This is how it's supposed to be. It's not happening. I'm really disappointed. Well, what if we just allow ourselves to assume there is a possibility that we could actually continue living without being completely aligned with this belief? That's where the dehypnotizing starts. These are beliefs. These are not necessarily facts. It's one thing if something happens in front of my eyes and I have to process that. It is another thing if I have a belief that I just keep rotating in my head and that keep.
Hi, and welcome to the Holistic Entrepreneur, where we explore the intersection of healing and business. I'm your host, Zane Myers, and on each show, we spotlight a specific healthcare practitioner who takes a more natural approach to healing while building successful businesses along the way. From functional medicine doctors to naturopaths and acupuncturists, our guests share their unique health philosophies and real-world challenges of entrepreneurship. Whether you're a patient or a practitioner, you're about to hear insights that honor both the healing and the business success. So tell me, I'm going to just do a quick introduction about, what I've doing a little bit of research on you. You have a PhD in natural medicine. You're a naturopath, functional medicine practitioner, and counselor. Tell me a little bit about your life journey and who Claudia Wenning is, or let's just talk about how did you get into what was led you into being where you are now originally. About an hour. So we take a little bit different twist in that we're talking to both your potential patients and as well as your peers. So some of it has to do with running your business, and some of it has to do with your journey, as a practitioner and helping patients and or I mean clients and what you do for them. So it's kind of a little bit of a mix, and the idea is that if you are using this, and we'll do some shorts, we'll cut a couple shorts out of this and just give them to you. So like a 1 minute or 2 minute short, and you can use them on your website or however you want to use them. But the idea is if someone listens to this, that they get a better feel for you as a person, as a human being, and not just as a from your care aspect, but you know sometimes it's adds a little humanizing touch to be able to recognize that this person is also running a small business, and it puts a little bit different spin on things, that there's pressures beyond, here I'm helping my client to achieve certain goals, but I also have to make a profit along the way. So it's just kind of an interesting twist on things. Make sense?
Yeah, makes sense. I'm looking at you now. Do I look like I'm looking at you?
Yes, you
I
do.
am. Okay, because
You're looking perfectly. Your
looking.
lighting is very good. Um, you look great.
So,
You're photogenic too.
oh well, thank you for that. So, um, you're in Seattle, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm in Northern California, and I've lived here for a long time. I was born and raised in Germany, and this is really where my story starts, because from early on, I was diagnosed with all kinds of illnesses, which are all under the grouping of chronic diseases, which basically at that time and even today, you are told you have this for the rest of your life. Deal with it. We can't cure this. So, you know, when there's one, two, three, four, five, you really wonder what's going on with this body, right? And maybe I should learn things I haven't been told, um, that might help me to be more at home in my body.
How old were you when you started to think about that kind of thing?
Early teens. I got diagnosed with the first chronic disease. Uh, I was I just got into elementary school. So and then they accumulated when I had a near death experience when I was 11, and after that I recovered from that. It was during surgery. I started to have questions, as a teenager, and I think that's the appropriate time. So what can I do differently just because I wasn't happy in my own skin and I always felt drawn to nature. So it wasn't really difficult at all to combine this going to town, going to the natural food stores, which were plenty and still are in Germany, look at what herbs can be used, how you can use food less processed, like how they actually are grown and they're coming from the farm. So this where it started. It started with me falling in love with herbs.
So when your move from Germany to the US, did that happen as a child or
No,
as a
no,
young
that
adult?
happened way later. Yeah.
Way later.
So, so I ended up here, and I'm very grateful to be in this country. And I live in a very rural area too, which totally fits my passions, if you will. I have an extensive herbal cultivation myself. I had it for years, and actually takes some years to come to a point where you can sustainably harvest and respectfully harvest because you always have to leave plenty for all these other creatures that live with us, starting with the bees, really all the insects. So you want to do it in a way that it serves everyone, not just the humans.
So when you did you get your training, initial training in Germany?
In Germany, yes.
In Germany.
Yes.
And then you came over here and started serving clients over here. How was that? So did you start a would you call it a practice or is that what you'd call it in Germany?
Yes. No, I didn't start my practice there. I learned naturopathy, which has a a total different stance than what we have seen here, although it's getting better in the last 10, 15 years. Naturopathy, homeopathy, herbal remedies, they are still, fortunately, much more integrated in the German culture, or I would say in the European, Middle Europe culture than here. And that's also one of my passions. It's time to come back to the natural elements of healing, which have been used for centuries, thousands of years. And these are all of enduring quality. And then modern medicine came in about 100, 150 years ago, which I love and I appreciate. But let's not forget how many natural remedies we do have, which are available before we just throw this all out of the window. And how this is also very self-empowering that people can make choices that make them more independent from the medical care that can be difficult, it can be expensive, there are other problems that come in with that. And if it's just a matter of living more naturally, if you can do it yourself and you don't have to go to a clinic, I would say do it.
Hang on, let me I have a fan going back here and it's just a little noisy. I'm gonna turn that
Okay.
off. I didn't realize how noisy that was till I turned it off, and now it feels like, wow, that's a relief. It's
Okay,
probably
let's take a
noisy.
deep breath, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so where was I? So
So I want to ask you about when you started to incorporate the kind of the whole foods into your routine. I mean, what were the results? Or I mean, how did you decide? Okay, well, I'm going in the right direction here. I really want to continue on this, and then, what happened? What was the transition that happened there?
well, I had a lot of intestinal problems as a child and as a teenager. And when I started to change my diet, I got better. The whole intestinal tract started to rebuild itself, and that was before probiotics were a thing. It was just with food. It was just with food, um, less processed food, less refined sugar, actually none. More fiber, fiber, fiber. I am in love with fiber. Fiber is so important to keep things moving in all ways, how you want to understand that. So it's really critical that we literally are what we eat. So it behooves us all to look at what we put in our body,
Yep.
right?
So when you moved out to Northern California and then started your practice, how or how did you get your first clients? What did you do to get your first clients?
I think I did what everybody would do. You start with the people you know, and the people who knew me knew what I'm passionate about anyhow. And it just I think time is the most important factor to grow any business and to use the time wisely by networking. I think that's what's called now. Actually, it wasn't called networking then. It was talking to people. You just talk, right? You talk to people, tell them what you're doing, tell them how much you love what you're doing and why you love it. And really that connection with this has worked for me. I'm my best testimonial. That I think speaks volumes. So I'm not theorizing. This is what I live. And I've been living this ever since I was a teenager. So, with all the variations that come throughout a lifetime, um, and the adjustments you have to make according to your age and to your activity level and so forth, yes, I think the old adage, um, walk the talk,
Mhm.
is that what it is? Walk the talk, I think. Um,
Yeah, walk the talk.
there you go.
So what do you tell me about your books
Oh, the
and
books.
how you wrote your books. And do you use those as part of your like marketing that you know when you talk to people, do you give out the books, you talk about the books or refer people on the books so that they can use those or is that something so a different kind of passion?
No, it all goes. It all flows, right? So, yes, I wrote two books. The first one in 2014, the other one in 2015. So basically, they're coming out of a very intense period in my life with a lot of changes and a lot of incredible insights that were gifted to me. I can't even say it any other way. So major shifts happened and they changed how I look at life. And obviously, at that time, 2011, I changed the name of my business and called it Quantum Level Health because I finally found a concept that kind of mirrors what I was believing in anyhow, which is quantum physics. And that we now can allow ourselves to look at reality in a very different, very more expansive way than before. And it just spoke so intensely to me that I decided this is one scientific aspect I can incorporate in how I look at life and make it understood to people. What happened though, nobody understood what I was talking about. In 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, it was like, why are you talking about? And it is much better now, 15 years later. It's all over the place. To the point that I think it's also taken out of context what quantum physics really intends to, the views that they intend to share, the scientists. So, but that's besides the point. I still think, even if it at least creates interest, what is that? What do you mean by going to the quantum level? What do you mean with this whole quantum thing? I think it is a wonderful way of opening up a conversation with someone who is ready and interested in looking at life differently. So, out of this looking at life differently, I started to write again, which I hadn't done for a long time, decades. And these became reflections, and that became the first book, From the Lightness of the Heart. And then I had started to work with my clients and developed all these processes, which I think they're kind of evergreen. Um, I put them all in a book, and that became the second book, the handbook, Quantum Level Transformation. That then anybody who has a few dollars to spare can get these processes and work with them independently because they are self explanatory. And the introduction of book, I think, explains everything I want to share with my quantum level approach. And so, yeah, the books themselves are tools for reflection, self discovery, for changing some trajectories in one's life if we're just so stuck and so frustrated and we haven't found the answers with the questions we have asked thousands of times. Why don't we ask some different questions?
What would be your typical client be like? So, if somebody's coming to you and they're experiencing what sorts of situations where they would say, "Okay, do you go by Dr. Claudia or Dr. Winning or Claudia or
Claudia.
Claudia?"
Claudia.
Okay, so I mean, you could pick any of those and it would be right. I like the just using the first name too. It's just a little bit more friendly. But if you have a client come to you, or and they come into you, in what sort of situations are they coming to you? Why are they coming to you?
Because their approach to life is not satisfactory anymore. That could be physical health, mental health, emotional health. It could be relationships. It could be being out of sorts with what they have signed up to do day by day in a work situation with their family, with their environment. Um, it's that moment in time where someone becomes really honest with themselves and knows that something has to change. Something has to change. In regard to physical health, you may have to change certain aspects of your lifestyle, your nutrition, you have to look at your stress levels. Mental health, pretty much too. Then there are environmental factors, relationships. So yes, I would say the easiest common denominator for for anyone who decides they want to talk to me is the clear realization that something has to change.
So, when you are most of your patients, is it a are they it sounds like a mix of both physical and mental, emotional, and just dissatisfaction in life. How do you find these people? Do you do any sort of advertising at all, or is it all strictly word of mouth?
I don't do much advertising, although you could um, classify my postings on social media as a sort of advertising.
Mhm.
When I
So
think of something that I think that might be of interest for someone out there, and then I post it, um, that's kind of my advertising, if you will. And coming back to the other aspect you just touched upon, everything is related. This is where the holistic approach comes in. Holistic means we're looking at all the aspects of the human being. That is the mental, the physical, and the emotional. And it all is connected with the field we are in that also affects the field that is given to us to express ourselves. So it's all connected. And yes, holistic is like a key word in all of that.
so give me an example if you can think of someone who came in, without identifying them who they are or anything. Someone who came in a situation and you were able to help them through that situation and create a result.
Okay. All right. So, you know, we also wanted to talk about the aspect of dehypnotizing. Remember?
Yes, I did want to. That was one of my things that I
Yes.
asked you about first off, and you were asking, well, what do
Yes.
you want to know about that? Just
Yes.
it seemed, just the concept was just it built my curiosity.
Yes. So this is actually something that is a very practical approach. Like imagine, let's say there's a woman my age says, Claudia, I gotta talk to you. I can't take it anymore. Okay, so she comes in and I have a studio, so I see people in person or on video. Um, and it's a long story, it's a very convoluted story, and the woman is in true, true distress. It's very difficult for her to make sense of what she's going through. And it is very emotional and it's physically depleting. There's insomnia. I mean, a lot of elements. There is loss of appetite. There are headaches. There's insomnia. It's physically taxing as well. So this actually really happened. And so we started to talk after she explained the symptoms she's going through, and nobody can help her. And all her blood tests are regular, and nobody can find anything wrong with her, but she's really suffering.
So
So
she's having physical and
yes.
and mental things that are
Yes.
going
It's
on.
emotional, it's mental, it's physical. It's just life is uh, not worth continuing the way she feels right now.
Oh,
So we looked at,
terrible then.
yeah, it's terrible, absolutely terrible. And after having gone to the medical doctor who, drew the blood, looked at all what could be going on, and can't find a darn thing, right? So whatever she tells me and the evaluation she shares with me about how she feels about what's going on, this is nothing else than judgment, right? We judge certain things that happen in our lives, we judge ourselves. And the big question is, have you ever taken the time to actually look at the judgment you are um, using, how you not only see life, but also how you have this inner voice talking about yourself? And that is the moment where everything can change. Let's question our evaluations. Let's question the answers we have drawn so far from the questions we have about life. What if there's a different way of looking at what's going on with you? What if the problem that you have clearly identified as a problem, if we look at it differently, may not be a problem? Maybe something that has to be addressed, but it doesn't have to like destroy the quality of your life. But that alone is easier be done with somebody like me because I am not under this heavy burden of emotional heaviness that already has developed out of these judgments and has then led to choices like not sleeping enough, using alcohol or other things to get off this situation. And
Mhm.
of course, they don't work. So when I come in, I can look at it from a different level, and I can take it with that person to the quantum level. So what do I mean by that?
Yeah, so tell me about that. What do you mean by that? And then, what in this particular instance, what happened, with this client? I mean,
What
what
happened?
was the
Yes.
result? And I mean, what was the journey that you went on with her where she was going in this direction and then you identified things that were going on and you were able to change the direction? What was what happened there?
Yes. I like what you do. So she's going in this direction. I'm coming from another direction. So we together bring this to a, if you will, higher level. We can both live with our directional imprint, if you will. And now we're looking at well, that is an option, but this is an option too. Now, what if there are other options to look at your life, and that will totally shift the judgment you have about what's happening? What's happening is happening. What has happened has happened. How it has affected you is obvious. However, what if there is another way how to deal with something has affected you? That would be in regard to grief, loss, disappointment, frustration, and even something as simple as the realization of getting older, the realization of having to deal with a loss of something. And we can always shift this. If it is really so unbearable in the moment, who wants to stay there? Why would we want to continue feeling completely overwhelmed and just miserable?
So you're
So
really talking about self-punishment in a way, as a you're punishing yourself because of the views that you have about who you are, that you've already, in your mind, it's part of your soul, and that's really, I mean, I think we all do that to a certain degree, and especially if you get into a mental trap, I would think it'd be really difficult to almost break that cycle. And so this is where you're talking about the de-hypnotizing.
keeps me from seeing anything else that might be possible because I'm so self-hypnotizing myself. It's got to be this. No, it can't be anything else. It got to be this. It's got to be this. It's got to be this. How frustrating. How frustrating.
So I just think in my mind about somebody in my own family that does this kind of self-destructive behavior, just the nicest person, but she's always in this cycle of, her beliefs are, she has this negative view on things, even though she's a kind person. But I can't see her breaking out of that. What do you do specifically to break someone out of that? When you talk about hypnotizing, is it actually there's a hypnosis component here?
Um, I do think we all are very susceptible to hypnosis. I do think we do it ourselves, and we allow elements to get us into that space too. Watching a movie, um, not being able to take your eyes away, right? You have to wait till the commercial comes up. That is an investment in the story that is has an hypnotic component to it, like a sense of trance, like, oh, I gotta watch this. Oh, I can't go in it. No, I have to wait till commercial comes, for example, right? So I
Mhm.
think it's the willingness, the readiness for change, and this is the people who come and talk to me. There is a certain element of willingness and readiness to change, but how? Yeah, I'm really tired of doing this day after day after day, waking up with frustration written all over this day, another day full of frustrations. There is an innate, this spark of, I want to live a good life. I'm, I don't know how to stop it, but I'm ready for change. I think the
Mhm.
readiness for change is the most important aspect to allow change to come in our lives. And it's invigorating, it's rejuvenating, it is inspiring for others too. When somebody in your family says, I'm kind of tired of doing the things the same way and being frustrated year after year after year, I'm going to change something. And then allow your innate intelligence to help you to change it, not maybe not too drastically, not chaotically, but um, let it unfold and expand and enrich your life and the lives of all people who you touch.
So are there certain exercises that you do when you're going through this, so that they can kind of break um, their their habits, or kind of what's driving them, or give me an example of something that you might suggest to someone to use.
Okay. There are lots of ways to get there. You open your mind and your heart and your perception to something which I call the big A. The big A stands for awareness. Anything that helps you to become more self-aware,
Mhm.
get you there. Breathing techniques, meditation, walking meditation, singing meditation, sitting meditation, dancing meditation. Anything that helps you to hone the awareness of being alive in this moment and being the observer, to witness that you're a conscious being. That is, and it's endless. For some people, it is an watching the sunset
Mhm.
without commenting, just allowing something to fill you up. For others, it's gazing in the eyes of your best friend and finding a connection. For others, is watching children laugh. This is the most beautiful thing on the planet. You watch children laugh with an abandon and a complete presentness. They are our best teachers. Just watch a child laugh.
Yep.
It's it can revolutionize your world if you're really watching.
Yeah. So I have grandkids, and yeah, I'm really familiar with that concept. There's a certain joy that children have. So how when people are doing these thought processes, it's really easy to kind of like meditation or something like that. There's it's easy to also drift into a negative thought process. How do you coach them to not drift into the negative, but to stay in the positive? Or do you? I don't. I mean, how do you? Are you trying to clear your mind, or are you trying to embrace the positive things in your life?
I see where you're going with that. Okay, so there's this very well-known topic of mindfulness.
Hmm. Yes.
Well, I would say we don't have to go there. It's more, it's a way of emptying your mind. So whatever happens, whatever you think about, just let it happen. Don't cling to it. Don't identify with it. That is just as important as when you become aware of the thoughts that come through your head, right? That's where we think they are, but they're actually in our whole field. Um, we have the freedom to identify or not identify with every thought that comes through us.
Hmm.
And that is incredible power. It is it's the most important aspect of us being humans. We have the capability of witnessing our thoughts and the choice of identifying with it or not identifying with it. And if we're identifying with a thought again and again and again, there comes an hypnotic quality to it, which can be very energizing as well if we're aligned with the values that are behind it. As you say, like, is it negative or positive? Does it make
Yes.
me feel more alive, or does it make me feel like I want to hide under a rock? That may not be life affirming. So I
Hmm.
want to support that. But um, if it's life affirming and makes you feel more interested in getting to know yourself and what happens in your psyche and in your body and in your emotional field, yes, I am all for it.
Do you use incantations or anything like that? Where you're saying the same thing over and over to kind of bring that, or is that something that's part of your practice?
Not primarily, I'm not against it. It really depends on how it serves the individual. If this is something, again, you are already identified with and you believe this will help you, try it out. But I wouldn't say, uh, hold on to the belief that this is the only thing that will help you, because that already will lead you in a direction where there's no expansiveness. So if it's a tool of several tools and it speaks to you, use it. If you think that's the only way I get to self-awareness and eternal happiness, that may not be so realistic.
Okay. Yeah. So, what was that famous movie some years back where, that people would say incantations or they would believe that this was gonna happen and then it would just happen. Was it a promise or something like that?
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I oh, this is it's a big topic. I think it's very important. First of all, we want to become aware of our beliefs. Yes, that's where it starts. If I believe that I will drive a purple car tomorrow for whatever purpose that would be, um, maybe look at what the purpose of that is. First of all, that's where you start, right? Before you identify with this belief and energize this belief, because that's a lot of energy you put in there. And then, is it realistic? Does it need any further energy of you to make this actually become reality? Or am I just sitting back and I am of the belief that as long as I say it often enough, it will happen? Does that work? Um,
mhm.
you have to question how you use these incantations. There are, of course, other ways to use words and vocal cords, which I think can be very beneficial and centering. It would then be more in the sense of a mantra. So there is no interest in having something to be delivered to you or having something to achieve, but rather using a mantra to be more in the present moment. And all sound is super important to bring a certain vibration into my field. So if you say it out loud, you better want to be aware of what you say out loud because it carries a vibration and the vibration will live within your field when you speak something out loud. So that goes in a whole different direction. Language is super powerful, super powerful.
So tell
Words.
me about that from, when you have a client in, what they say, what you say, how that, affects the whole, session.
Um, Whatever someone will say about themselves, I would invite them to listen to that and not just expect me to listen to it. Like I'm talking to you, but I'm listening to what I'm saying. And it brings me into a certain level of awareness. Is that actually what I want to share with you? Or is it kind of off mark? And then I have to rewind it. Wait, uh, that's, I, don't- I have to say this differently, right? So, and intonation is very important too, because this is how we actually can engage. It's a matter how you bring something verbally towards another. It depends how you do it to create the willingness of the other to actually pay attention to what I say. So
Mhm.
people, they probably have the belief that the louder they talk, the more people will listen to them. That may be the
Yeah.
case or may not be the case, right?
We've all known
That's
people
an
like that.
interesting belief, all right? So yes, words and not only the intonation, but also um, mm, the agreed upon interpretation of certain words, socially agreed upon. Certain words mean certain things, or certain words are meant to create a certain response in the listener. We have to be careful about this. It could be words that are used in a more manipulative way than
So give me an example of that.
um, all the words that go in the category of what you call cuss words.
Mhm.
They have a certain energy and certain intensity that would affect the listener if the listener is open to that. But because we are socially, I think, agreeing that they have an intensity, most likely it would affect somebody. If I cuss at you now for 5 minutes, like on the top of my voice, it may do something to you. You may not be able to say, okay, well, that's just her talking. Doesn't affect me, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. On the other hand, it could be very endearing words that completely are aligned with your psyche, what you want to hear. Like I tell you how wonderful you are in certain aspects and how you're such a genius doing XYZ. Um, Yeah. You know where I'm
Yeah,
going with
it
that,
it
right?
does really have an effect on you, even just to listen to it and kinda hear it, you think, "Oh, I'm pretty good." So
So,
what do you
yeah.
do in your if you could pay somebody to do something about your business, whether it was, that you do right now and that you could get rid of, what would that be? This is a totally off the wall kinda question.
Ooh, say it
I
again.
changed I changed focus completely.
Okay. Okay. Tell me again. What is the question?
So, if you could pay somebody to do something in your business that, that you could get rid of, what would that be? So, in other words, if you had somebody who could walk in and could do it, maybe as good as you, because, you could get rid of doing that, what would that be?
Oh, okay. Okay, it's very personal, but since you asked me, um, uh, I have one of my chronic conditions is that my handwriting is not sustainable. I can't really write long. So, I would say somebody who who takes over making the notes for me.
Mhm.
Um, but it's very delicate because then you would have to bring someone else in, and it's a matter of confidentiality. So, yeah, taking notes, that might be
That's
something.
kinda tough. Do you use dictation, do you use any dictation?
No, I really haven't really upgraded this whole approach. It's like I make handwritten notes. That's what I do, right?
Probably while you're sitting there with a client, you're making notes, and there's no other way around it. You can't put a computer screen, it's
It's
too
like, oh,
distracting,
oh,
it's
wait a
just like
second. I'm gonna,
yeah,
I'm gonna. You can do that.
no.
So, but I'm sure there's other things that could be delegated. I just haven't really given that much thought. I'm sure there could be something done, but at the same time, in my case, I am the business.
So what's the tell me let's talk about the stress of running the business, that part of it, and, you have patients, you're always trying to help them, achieve the goals and get the positive results, and then you, end up with blank spots in your schedule, and that's kind of you how do you deal with that?
You're not gonna like it. Oh, that's just an assumption. Okay, I'll take it back. You may like it. Um, if for some reason there's a certain time in a day that I don't see clients, then I believe that time is meant for me to realign my energy to be then in a complete present state of being when the next client walks through the door. So, and it's not that often that it happens. I actually do give myself a lot of time between sessions exactly to do that. So it's not like in out in out. I do need a lot of time to come to a sense of completion for what has happened with one individual,
Mhm.
and come back to a neutral space that I am then not taking anything from the last session into the next session. I think that's very important.
So, your practice, your business, the way that it is right now, is it pretty self-sustaining? Is something that you're at the size where you wanna be, and you've got the right amount of clients, you really don't wanna change anything about where you are right now? If you could change anything, would there be anything? I'm just talking, as far as, you're running your business and it sounds like you're pretty, happy with your whole business and situation, which is really great.
Yeah, actually,
But
I'm very grateful. I'm super duper grateful that anybody who comes in the door has the capacity of trusting me enough I mean, it's just miraculous. I'm just another human being. And then when actually something transpires in the time we're together, that solutions just come to the surface and show themselves and create an incredible shift for that person. It's like, I mean, I basically celebrate with my client together. It's amazing. So yeah, I'm very grateful for what has uh, evolved. Eventually, of course, I may retire someday. No, in the perceivable future, um, I may still then be available in video, but for the time being, I am a firm believer that it takes time to build trust. And one aspect that has its own beauty is that I'm actually working with various generations in one family, if you will. So let's say the mother came to see me. Now she's the grandmother. Her daughter and her grandkids come to me. So that is, it's really amazing. That is the epitome of word of mouth, literally, when somebody has enough trust to send their own family, um, their kids and their grandchildren. That is just beautiful to me.
Mhm.
That's a testimonial that we did something that works. Um, yeah. So that, I think if somebody sees that in their practice, I mean, just pinch yourself. It's real. It's beautiful. It's unbelievably beautiful. Um, and that only time can bring.
So let me ask you a different question. So when you first started out, um, and when you first started, how did you bring in? So you say actually you reached out to people that you know,
Yes.
and then a few of them came in, and then how did you go from that to? I mean, you had to been doing a lot of talking with various people, saying, "Hey, I do this, and if you have this happening, you know, I love to talk to you about it." How do what's even the conversation that goes on at that? It's probably been so long ago you don't remember exactly, but
No.
what would you tell somebody young starting out that they should do?
When I decided to really give it all I had, there was the time when I was writing my books. I also offered local events where they were meant to not only show what I do, but basically what everybody has to offer in a local area in regard to a non-medical health support. And these events were very successful, and a lot of people came and got information and talked to all kinds of what are called alternative health practitioners. And
Mhm.
I think that made a difference how I connected with the community. And again, it's all personal, right? It was events where people walk in the door and they have an experience, a day long experience with me and others, which made this so real and tangible that there are ways how you can improve your life with the help of a practitioner, but then also that you get shown certain ways you can continue on your own. Again, it's all about self-empowerment. I don't want anybody ever to think they have to be dependent to go to a practitioner for 10, 20 years. That is not something I would ever embrace.
So actually, I'm really curious about this event because that sounds like such an interesting um, way to really get people to kind of not just know that you exist, but to actually experience what it is that you do. So, how many different kinds of practitioners did they have, and who organized the whole thing?
Well, I did, of course.
Oh, you did it.
Yeah. The first event
Maybe that's your next career.
No, that is already a career that has been in the making, and I'm actually slowing down because yes, I have provided a lot of events over the years. The first one, I would say maybe 20 practitioners. The next one, it was a different format. There were active processes with, I want to say, 10, 12 practitioners. And then my, at that time, studio partner and I, we offered monthly events with highlighting one practitioner for a certain, uh, either a modality or just a certain teaching people can take home and do themselves.
Mhm.
Yes. So this has been going on for over 10 years.
Oh, so it still continues to this day.
Um, uh, yes, there's probably another event in the making. As we speak, I don't
Are
have
they all
the title.
local, or do
They're
you go
local,
around to
yeah.
different places?
And most of them are videotaped and on my YouTube channel.
Okay. I'll have to go check that out
Yeah, you have to go check
because
out my
I
YouTube
actually
channel.
I'm really interested in that because I'm always talking to practitioners who are looking for ways to grow their business and like I say, you're either dealing with clients or patients, but you're also a small business person. So there's two competing things, and you only have so much time to go around between seeing the patients, growing your business. You can't do everything, and so I was just kind of curious about the concept of these meetings. So
So I think, Zane, I mean, we all went through COVID. I think one of the lessons we might realize coming out of this incredible time of isolation that it really helps for people to find common ground and communicate with each other in person. Um, and yes, I mean, by default, it's local, of course, because you don't want people to drive all over the place for hours and hours and hours. But it is also something that has merit that it can grow from there. It is just one point of contact. As I said, it's back to the principle. You make a connection, a really beautiful new relationship with somebody locally. And I could give you several examples. Um, they will talk to a family in Utah and they will call me.
Mhm.
So it's just a matter of connecting, but with an open heart and authentically. And I mean, I have nothing really to sell. What I offer is a service, is a way to help someone to get out of a rut, whatever shape or form it might be, to get out of this place like, I don't want to be here. I don't know how to get out. It could be
Mhm.
physically, mentally, emotionally. I don't want to live life like this anymore. And this is where I can provide the service to help that individual to find new avenues, more than one, and it's of their choice and how they want to move forward. But um,
So how did you come up with the idea of having these events? Yeah, but did you just decide I need to get more patients, I can help more people, but it's kind of a sharing thing too. I mean, how did you get all the different modalities, and what were the modalities? I mean, did you have an acupuncturist and a chiropractor, structural medicine, homeopath? Did how many different? Did you say you had like 20 people at one of these?
yeah, massage, um, EFT, qigong, another talk therapist, another therapist, one, two, three, four therapist, the therapy just geared for children, another acupuncturist. Somebody spoke about the importance of diet, nutrition,
Uh-huh.
nutritionist, if you will.
Yes.
Um, yes. So all these things are, of course, things I'm passionate about too. To really, the common goal is always in offering events to give people tools to improve their lives independently with the help of someone for a time, um, to bring the focus on something that doesn't work and find solutions to make it work.
And
So
when you had these events, how did you market them so that, people would know, "Hey, they've got all these group of different experts.
the old
I'd really
fashioned
like to."
way, the old fashioned way, posters, newspapers, word to mouth, social media. You just gotta let people know this is happening. And
When you did that, how far out did you schedule it? I'm asking you real pragmatic kind of questions.
No, that's fine.
I'm really curious.
I think it was 3 months.
3 months? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
And then where'd you have it? I mean, what, the actual physical place you had it, you usually have to pay for something like that, right?
yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes, you rent um, you know, there's places for this. You rent a hall big enough. Yes. Yes.
And how many people showed up?
80 the first one and about 120 the second.
Oh, that's great.
I mean, that's for somebody who was not known at all, pretty amazing because I live in such a, I mean, we have, our town is 5,000, what do you say, inhabitants? Yeah. So it's a very small town and, yeah, it works. And then the ongoing events, they were usually, because the room wasn't very big, 25 people, 30 people. But if you do this every month, it's something people actually can rely on, that there will be some information provided. And a big aspect of this also was always the herbal aspect, like learning about herbs, how to use herbs, do all these kind of things. And um, again, help people to find ways to enhance the quality of their lives and their health at the same time.
Yeah. And well, fortunately in the US, like you said at the very beginning, that we're going that way. It's awful glacial, slow pace. And I talked to somebody last week, um, a functional medicine guy who's really enjoyed it, and he was somewhat frustrated with his allopathic brethren, that they did not he just didn't get any referrals. It was always, it didn't get any referrals from, uh, what's called traditional medicine, which is actually, naturopathic source of medicine really is traditional medicine, and allopathic medicine is something new in the last 150, 200 years. Before it was just didn't even exist.
And the amazing thing now with functional medicine, it is actually the bridge between the old fashioned way of doing things and allopathic medicine, because that is an approach that uses all the incredible science we have, how to interpret lab tests and all that. That all is in functional medicine. But
Mhm.
then the way how to treat them, we're going back to naturopathy. So for me, watching this being going on now, it was coined by Jeffrey Bland, I think 1996, I want to say. I might be wrong on that. Functional medicine is this bridge for naturopathy and allopathic medicine to come back together. And really, what we want that it works for the client or patient is the best of both worlds. That's really what should give us the energy to move forward. And it will happen. I think patience and diligence, we will get there.
I think that about winds it up, Claudia. I really appreciate your time. That was really great. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for joining us on The Holistic Entrepreneur. Visit our website at holisticentrepreneur.org for more resources and information about today's guest. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, I'm Zane Myers, and we'll continue exploring the intersection of holistic health and entrepreneurship.